Hey, everybody, you might have heard that yet another intruder broke into my house this week and then returned to my house again shortly after the police released him. Last month, an armed gunman using falsified U.S. Marshal badges and phony federal ID and carrying an arsenal in his backpack tried to approach me at a speech in Los Angeles, a short distance from where my dad was assassinated. I don't want to make too big a deal of it, except that it highlights the need for Secret Service protection. Every presidential candidate since the 1970s who's asked for Secret Service protection has received it, including my uncle, Edward Kennedy, Walter Mondale, John Glenn, Gary Hart, George McGovern, Bill Clinton, George Bush, John Kerry, Mitt Romney, Bernie Sanders, and many, many others. They've all received early Secret Service protection. Barack Obama received protection almost 2 years before the election. However, President Biden has made the historic decision to deny me a Secret Service detail. I'm the only one in history whose request has ever been denied. I don't spend time worrying about my personal safety, but I do worry about the safety of my family and their sense of well-being, and about the safety of bystanders if there happens to be a more serious incident. I'm troubled mostly by the weaponization of federal law enforcement agencies to serve political agendas. It's not right for the president to provide protection for his family and political favorites while denying it to his political rivals. You can't have a functioning democracy when candidates aren't safe. Elections and not assassinations are supposed to decide who takes office in America. In its threat assessment, the Secret Service concluded that I am at an elevated risk. The decision, therefore, to deny me protection was a naked political calculation. During his first week as Attorney General, my father assembled all the Department of Justice senior prosecutors to tell them that he would not tolerate any politicization of law enforcement. President Biden displays a bust of my father in the Oval Office, but he seems to have forgotten this critical tenet of American democracy. I'm reaching out to you today to help send a message to the Biden White House. The time has come for public pressure to make the White House do the right thing. That's why I'm asking you to sign a petition to President Biden calling on him to grant me Secret Service protection. Even if you don't support my candidacy, I ask you to sign this petition to protect me, to protect the public, and most of all, to protect our democracy. Thanks for taking time to do that.
Is fear itself the biggest issue facing America right now?
I don't know if it's the biggest issue, but it has become weaponized by elements within the technocracy and in the corporate kleptocracy to engineer compliance of Americans with things that most people would not put up with under normal circumstances. It's like Americans know innately that the government is not supposed to censor us, and yet we put up with it. It's been recognized forever that fear is a governing tool, particularly for totalitarian elements. If you manipulate them with fear, people will choose security over constitutional rights. Franklin Roosevelt said to people the biggest fear is fear itself. If we allow ourselves to be manipulated by fear, we will lose everything that we value.
Do you ever get scared that these government agencies, these pharmaceutical companies are going to try to physically harm you or the people that you care about?
I don't get scared about it, and I don't worry about it, but I'm aware of that danger. I feel like this is my country, and I have a duty to fight that kind of stuff. There was a generation in this country in 1776 that put their lives on the line, and a lot of them died, and put their fortunes on the line, and their property, and their reputations, their livelihood, in order to give us the constitutional rights that we now take for granted. And in 1 year, we saw so many of those constitutional rights just eviscerated, and we have to be willing to make the same kind of sacrifices they did. There's a lot worse things to me than dying, and one of those is having my kids grow up in America where they do not have the constitutional rights that I grew up with. If you like this video and you want to help me become President of the United States, go to Kennedy24.com and donate now.
It was very alarming. I was actually on Instagram Live with a friend of mine talking about baking and candles. I have a company, Heinz & Young, and We were just talking about, you know, how to make your house cozy and happy. And I can see out my window uh, a very strange person, and I see the security um, apprehending him while I'm talking. And it was, yes, very alarming.
Cheryl, you actually were able to, you stayed on the Instagram Live while this was happening?
I did. Because it took a moment to understand what was happening because I didn't understand the severity of it.
Yeah.
So I actually just stopped talking for a moment and was staring outside, and my jaw dropped. And my friend said, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" And I said, I I need to go
Hmm.
because I could see, you know, if I could see how serious the situation was.
Was he
Um,
struggling? Was he struggling with, like, when you're watching security, you know, interact with this person, was there an actual struggle or was it just a heated conversation?
well, I mean, I can tell you that security had it under control. Let's say that. So I didn't see a lot of struggling, and like I said, I was still on
Yeah.
live, so I was trying, but I could tell that the security guard um, had everything under control. He apprehended the person, and then I could hear someone say, "Call 911," and suddenly, you know, I'm just sitting in my house uh, at, I don't know, it's like 9:20 in the morning, and it just turned into this um, harrowing event.
Wow. So, can you kind of paint a picture of why you and your husband have petitioned Homeland Security to give you Secret Service protection while he runs for president?
Well, like you said, so Bobby, my husband, is running as an independent for president of 2024. And I mean, I think a lot of people are aware that the Kennedys have a history of, you know, his uncle was assassinated, his father was assassinated, and now Bobby is running for president, and which I think takes a lot of courage for a lot of reasons. And it's a unique situation because of his history and because of the violent history that comes along with it. So yes, he has requested that the administration give him Secret Service protection for this very reason. This is the third time something has happened where someone was trying to harm Bobby. So it's um, disappointing, to say the very least, that the administration is not giving Bobby protection.
They had said when they initially rejected, when Homeland Security rejected the request, they said something about the candidate needs to be polling at least 15%. As we just mentioned, Bobby's now polling at 19%. This should just be, and in light of that, and in light of what just happened at your home, has there been a new request made to Homeland Security?
I believe there has been, and also everything has been documented along the way, and there's been communication with them. So it's not it's they know what's happening, and they know what has been happening. So yeah, it's um, I can't believe that they're not responding.
You know, back in 1968, I was 17 years old. I was the head of a Students for Robert Kennedy organization. And I was at the Ambassador Hotel that night on June 4th, 1968. And I literally just got chills because there was a point in the evening before he gave his final speech where I ended up in an elevator with Ethel Kennedy and your husband when he was a little kid. And they went up to the hotel room, and she came back down to stand by her husband's side right before he was assassinated. And that has stuck with me, that horror has stuck with me to this day. And, you know, Joe Biden is a humane guy. Whatever you think of him with his politics or whatever, he is a humane guy. And,
Right.
given what your family has suffered through with John Kennedy and Robert Kennedy, it just seems incredible to me that whatever polling is, that this is part of Americana and that somebody like him needs protection. It would just seem to me on that basis alone, they would give it to him.
And Cheryl, I hear what it sounds like. I hear your response. Like, it seems like you're being careful and you don't want to say anything too negative about the administration. But I will say it. This seems like an easy decision for them to make, and it's baffling.
It is baffling, and at this point, it feels. Yes, you're right. I'm being careful about my words because, you know, I respect President Biden and the administration. And at the same time, it feels like it's political strategy. You know, if they don't acknowledge that Bobby's running as a presidential candidate, then, well, let me back up. I guess if they do give Bobby protection, then they are acknowledging that he's running as a political candidate, and that he, like you're saying, Harvey, yeah, he is polling, and at a high percentage, and this is really happening. It's happening regardless of if they acknowledge it or not. But that's what's happening. Bobby is running for president, and he is out there, and he's out there campaigning and giving speeches. And yes, somebody showed up at one of his speeches armed, was arrested. This person was arrested. So I'm not sure what it's going to take to get the administration to.
This has got to keep you up at night, I would think.
You know, it does. Sometimes, I mean, I know that Bobby's a different person. He's very brave, and nothing seems to rattle him. But I am very concerned about it. There are people out there that are have issues, and the only thing we can do is protect Bobby, you know, and the people around him. So it takes a lot. It takes a lot of effort to do that. And of course, the Secret Service is, this is exactly what they do, and they are trained in this. And so you would think that this is exactly what they should be doing.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's really disappointing.
Yeah. Wow. It's and honestly, I feel like maybe in the, sounds bad to say, the silver lining of what happened at your house this week is that it is now a more high profile. It's been made very clear to everyone.
The
what you're up
urgency is
against.
apparent.
And let's hope that rattles a few doors at the White House, and they just do this.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate that. It really can't be ignored. I mean, it's on the news. That they can't act like they don't know and they haven't seen it.
That's right.
They know. So everyone knows. The administration knows. Biden knows. So hopefully, you're right that they will make adjustments.
Cheryl,
Right.
we so appreciate you talking to us. I don't know why, God, this brings back such horrific memories. And
I can't believe you were there that night. That's extraordinary.
it has haunted me to this day.
Of course.
So yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much,
we
Cheryl.
so appreciate the time, Cheryl. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Wish you the best.
Thank you.
I saw 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I read it on your Twitter feed, and I was like, oh my God, they won't give this man Secret Service? Are you? That's outrageous to me. Is that still the case that you're not?
I was surprised about that, but because I mean, I get death threats all the time. I get, my family history is, it speaks for itself. I guess 3 weeks ago, I had a mentally ill person make it to the second story at my house. I had a speech that I was giving this week in South Carolina, almost shut down because of death threats. And so, clearly I should be getting it. In fact, there's never been, the media has lied about what the rules are. The media says, well, he's not entitled to Secret Service because you only get Secret Service 120 days out from the election. But what the law says is you get it 120 days out from the election automatically. And that law was passed after my father was assassinated, because originally they only gave it to once you got the nomination. Now you get it everybody gets 120 days out if they pass certain metrics, like more than 15% of polling for 30 days. And then my uncle was given it, my Uncle Teddy was given it by President Carter, I think 551 days out. And my Uncle Teddy wasn't even running at that point. But, Carter and he had this tremendous antipathy for each other, and Teddy ended up running against him. But Carter was a classy guy and gave it to Teddy. Obama got it about, I think, 500 days out. John McCain was offered it 551 days out. Jesse Jackson got it. Shirley Chisholm got it. You go down a list, and it's 30 or 40 candidates have gotten it further out than me. And the White House, we gave them a 67-page document, including the threats and all of the documentation about why I deserved it. I'm the first presidential candidate in history that meets the metrics that requested Secret Service protection and was denied. The president has the ability to give anybody Secret Service protection. John Bolton has it. There are many people who work for Hunter Biden has it, people who work for the government, or people who have associations with the government who have long ago retired and continue to get it. And so, it's odd. It's an odd choice for President Biden to decide not to give it to me.
Officer, we have a bomb dog. You want to take a look at that bag really quick before you guys get into it? Yeah, okay, well, wait. Hey, Will, find out how long until Doug.
Hey, sir, for now,
Yeah. Yeah.
There was like you guys had an issue with the security, right? That happened. This is a few days ago, maybe, where they had a guy who was it looked like he was here we go. Armed man arrested at RFK Jr. campaign event in Los Angeles. Was this guy armed and supportive of you, or was he armed and it seemed like he was against you, or did you have any take on this?
He showed up and he asked, he was wearing a U.S. Marshal badge. You can see it in some of he was wearing a lanyard. You can see the lanyard around his neck there. And at the end of that is a badge that identified him as a U.S. Marshal. And then he had a federal ID on his belt.
Okay.
You can see there.
Yeah.
Right? He has some other kind of badge on his belt, and you see the badge around his neck. And that was determined to be fake. And somebody from my Gavin Becker Associates, which is doing my security, they won't. The White House will not give me Secret Service protection. So I've retained this group that's the premier security group in the country, and they and one of their guys looked at that badge and said that's too shiny.
Wow.
It's not a real badge. And so then he called somebody else who was armed, and the two of them cornered him, and then they called the police and they kept him in the corner. They didn't want to grab him because they didn't want to start a shootout. And they could see that he had shoulder holsters on.
Jeepers.
And so then the police came and arrested me. He was asking for me. He was looking for me. And he had two shoulder holsters that were fully loaded pistols. And then you can see that badge on his hip.
Yeah, he's badged up, huh?
Yeah. And then he also had a backpack that had another weapon in it. Another gun.
Like a sword?
He also had knives on him.
Oh, man.
And he had a lot of extra magazines filled with ammunition. So he said afterwards, apparently his brother said, he heard there was a job opening for security, but you don't go to a job opening for security with all those magazines and guns and knives and 2 to 3 pistols. His brother who brought him there also was like an armory. So
right.
They had a whole car filled with weapons.
Wow.
So I have no idea. I don't know what he was looking for, but I'll tell you what. The thing that you should do is go on his YouTube. I mean, his TikTok.
Yeah?
He has a TikTok site that he just opened, so he only has one TikTok video on it. And it's of him just before he comes to see me.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's see that if you can find it. Nick will find it.
It is.
Because some people want to show up
at the end of that thing, he says something to the effect of, "I'm going out to do a job right now, and if I don't come back, if I don't come back, report to your commander, Donald J. Trump, your commander in chief." So it's a very kind of okay. Well, you want to watch this? It's about a minute.
Yeah,
it's worth watching.
Let's watch it.
You got to turn the sound up.
Oh shit, big homie Zorro over here.
I think this is his brother talking to him.
I needed to see. More like God's gangster.
Shit, I hear you're the man with the plan. What's the word?
I got it all. Actually, there's too much to tell you right now. So I want you guys to go over to Rumble, check out Icons 2020, Sarge. I will be speaking with him, and Alex Collier. You're not retiring, homie. You didn't fucking ask me, dog. I need you, sport.
Okay, so this guy's not doing well, huh?
No.
Yeah,
My name is
this guy ain't
Adrian
doing well.
Paul
And this could also be an advertisement for Rumble.
First name,
A-E-R-I-A-N. I would see him go to something like this. Okay, I think I've seen enough. But yeah, I get it. So this guy's like,
Last name, A-I-S.
In the end, he does this little, kind of.
Let's see the end. Can we see the end?
Suicide by police. Yeah, show the last. I don't know, 10 seconds.
There we go.
If I don't make it back, call the fucking president, your commander-in-chief, Donald J. Trump.
And where's he going? I didn't even see a door over there when it was a wide shot. So that's the weird part. If he's just walking just over by some tool chests. Wow. I mean, look, dude, just
So I don't know. I don't know.
'cause, y'all don't have the best track record with like,
No.
you know,
You mean the family?
yeah, I don't want to say that, but yeah, I mean, and yeah, I shouldn't have said it like that, but you know, it's like, is it more scary? But you can't live in fear. What are you going to
No,
do?
I'm not going to live in fear.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it is what it is, and you know, but the White House should definitely be giving me Secret Service.
Well, can you save your receipts? And if you get in there, can you
get
get reimbursed or not?
what?
Can you?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so and I think that's what they're up to. That they want to, you know, bleed me white, essentially, you know, from money perspective. But I'm the first candidate in history that has requested Secret Service protection they haven't given to.
But do they give it to you this early? Because I read somewhere that they
here's,
don't.
here's what, because the press has been dishonest about this. You're entitled to it. They have to give it to you 120 days out from before the general election.
If what? What circumstances?
To all candidates, 120 days out.
Okay.
Well, you have to have a certain polling number, but I've surpassed all the thresholds by far.
Okay.
So, but like my Uncle Teddy was given Secret Service protection 551 days out.
But he was also he was like a lifelong politician.
Oh, he was a politician, but he wasn't even running for president. He was talking about running for president against a president in his own party like me, Carter. But Carter said, "You better protect him right away."
Right.
And even though he hadn't officially declared they gave him Secret Service protection, Obama got it 450 days out. John McCain got it, 400 or 500 days out. I think I'm like 300 days out now. Jesse Jackson got it. Shirley Chisholm. You go down, there's probably 30 of them who've all gotten it long before the 120 days.
Okay.
And I get, we gave them a 68-page.
Yeah, I remember reading about that. And why you should have it?
Yeah, Philip, because I get death threats all the time, and I had a mentally ill person break into my house a month ago and make it to the second floor.
No, are you at your house?
Yeah. So,
oh my God.
So they should. You would think that the president would.
If you know Biden, can't you just ask him?
Well, we're not on talking terms at the moment.
Okay. Damn, that's a bummer. Yeah, because you think you'd be able to hit him up and be like, Joey,
Yeah.
I'll trade you an ice cream for a couple of front door goons, You know what I'm saying? A couple of sharpshooters, dude. I bet you send him a box of mint chocolate chip, buddy, you'll get whatever you want.
You think?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I think every man loves to have a dessert. Hope you enjoyed that video, and you can watch another. And you can watch this one, you can watch this one. Different options, different choices. Some guy just brings you one option, not this guy. Two options. Watch one. This one or this one.
I'm Gavin D. Becker. You can obviously learn more about me from Wikipedia or any other online source, but I want to give you a very quick introduction. I advise governments and at-risk individuals on anti-assassination strategies. I'm a 3-time presidential appointee. I served 2 terms on the President's Advisory Board at Department of Justice. I designed mosaic systems, threat assessment systems that are used to screen threats to justices of the Supreme Court and members of Congress. I developed threat assessment systems used by the U.S. Marshals Service and by state police agencies protecting governors in 12 states. My best-selling books on preventing violence are now published in 21 languages. You get the idea. My company provides protection services for many at-risk public figures, including for my dear friend and now presidential candidate, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. It's odd that we're protecting him because since 1968, presidential candidates get Secret Service protection. That started immediately after Senator Robert Kennedy, Bobby's father, was assassinated at a campaign event. Immediately, Secret Service began protecting candidates, and by Election Day that year, 12 candidates were getting protection. But the Biden administration has refused to afford Secret Service protection to Bobby Kennedy Jr. Now, an important note here, the Secret Service itself has been helpful and professional, and I have no complaint with them. They stand ready to provide the protection, but the Biden administration says no. Now, what's happened during the long months that the administration has failed to protect this candidate is super alarming, and I'm going to share just a couple of incidents that have already been public. A few weeks ago, a mentally ill intruder entered Bobby's home demanding to see the candidate, and he was arrested. It wasn't the first time that same man had been arrested for Kennedy-related intrusions. More significantly, last week, a man showed up outside a campaign event where Bobby was going to speak. And protectors from my company were observing him, and they were ready when the man went to a side entrance, identified himself as federal law enforcement, and ordered our protectors with intensity, "Take me to Kennedy immediately. I have to see him right now." When protectors saw that this man was carrying a handgun, they removed him from the area, isolated him, surrounded him, LAPD was called, and we handed over custody when the police arrived, and the man was arrested. In his backpack, which we screened for explosives, were more handguns, knives, and extra ammunition. A second man who'd driven him to the campaign event was also taken into custody by police. Obviously, the incident is very, very alarming. We now know that he's a strident QAnon follower, and to help us guess what he was planning, we reviewed everything we could find online and began quite an investigation. There's a TikTok video that he posted just weeks ago trying out that special new outfit that he was wearing when he made the approach at Bobby's speech with the handgun and had a fake federal badge. At one point in the video, he calls himself God's gangster. Referring to his readiness, he says, "Shit, I got it all." Now on this video, he spells out his name super carefully, letter by letter. And he says, "You'll know who you're fucking with." Near the end of the video, he says, "Take care of each other," and then adds his most chilling words, "if I don't make it back." Now, the risk in this incident doesn't take an expert, it's obvious. And despite knowing everything that I've shared with you and knowing much more alarming material that's contained in a detailed 67-page threat assessment the government received, the administration still hasn't responded to the campaign's second formal request for protection. What are they waiting for? So with all that background, I'm reaching out to you today in what is probably the most unusual fundraising request ever in presidential politics. It's because they've refused to provide Secret Service protection that 30 cents of every dollar donated to RFK Jr.'s campaign has to go to security. Normally, none of it would. I would gladly pay for it all myself. He's my dear friend, and I'd like him to win. But it's not allowed. It would be considered a campaign contribution above the limit, and I've already made my campaign contribution. But you can help. You can help to continue the best level of security that we can accomplish for my dear friend through donating to his campaign. It is crazy that we have to ask the public to provide protection, but that's where we are.
I consider myself a traditional Kennedy liberal. I don't know any of the values that my uncle John Kennedy harbored or my father shared that I don't share. They had antipathy and suspicion of war and the military-industrial complex. They did not want corporations running the American government. They were completely against censorship. They were against the use of fear as a governing. And you go down the list of the things that they believe in, and I don't think that there's really any daylight between me and what they believed. If you like this video and you want to help me become president of the United States, go to Kennedy24.com and donate now. When I tell the mainstream media, hey, you're not telling the truth about my positions, they tell me, well, go jump in a lake. And when I tell the mainstream media, hey, I give an important policy speech and you didn't cover it, they tell me, well, go jump in a lake. And when I tell the Democratic Party, hey, it's not fair of you to not count the votes for millions of primary voters, they tell me, go jump in a lake. And when I tell the White House, I'd be a lot safer if you gave me Secret Service protection, they say, go jump in a lake. So I've heard that advice so many times, and I'm going to try it. If we meet our fundraising goal of $5 million by midnight on September 30th, I'm going to jump in this lake. Please visit Kennedy24.com and donate today to help us reach our $5 million goal. Let's see if this lake is all it's cracked up to be.
In these last 3 years, we were told, stay in your house and don't go outside, don't go to work, don't see your family on Thanksgiving and Christmas, even divorced parents couldn't transfer the kids between households because that would be two households getting together. I mean, the madness of this science fiction movie, given the fact that people love freedom so much, is a really interesting thing for us to reflect on as a society. How did we do that? How did we have that Constitution that when we got away from the British, we basically said to the king, you can't come in my house without permission? A normal king would say, I beg your pardon, you're my subject. That's my house you're talking about. But America took this different approach and wrote this extraordinary document, and others, the Constitution being one of them. And I think if you look at world history, which is what I tend to do when I look at human behavior, you have a pie chart. Almost all of that pie chart is tyranny as a leadership strategy for human beings. And only this tiny, tiny sliver is the United States and Western Europe and Australia and New Zealand back in the day that really focused on the freedom of the individual and that built a whole society around that. We must never assume that's going to last. Because again, pie chart, all tyranny, just this tiny sliver. Tyranny is actually the more normal way for human leadership to work. Leadership's not even the right word, domination. That is the more normal way. And so in my work, the looking at predicting human behavior, I looked at this right at the beginning, these lockdowns, for example, and I said, all right, we're being asked to fear something, so let me study what it is that we're being asked to fear, because fear is a control mechanism. Sometimes it's true. At the beginning of the pandemic, I'm like everybody else. We only knew two metrics. Over 60, die. That's all we knew about COVID. That's all we were told. So I'm like everybody else. So wash off the deliveries coming into the house.
Yes.
Oh, you can touch the pizza box, but you can't touch. Oh, you can touch the pizza, but you can't touch the box. You got to wipe it. All the madness that went on, but I only had that information. Was it worth stopping the planet Earth for? It wasn't. Turns out it wasn't. Did people die from COVID? Absolutely. Did fit, healthy young people die from COVID? No. Didn't happen. Very, very rare, and usually with kids who were hospitalized for other things. So I looked at that, and bring it back to the point you were raising about fear and prediction. Governments throughout human history use fear to control their citizens.
Gavin DeBecker. Remember that name. You can stream that conversation right now on Fox Nation. Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens. Stories that are changing the world and changing your life. From Tucker Carlson tonight.